Let me explain to you how SDG 13 connects to disaster resilience in real life. Now, let's bridge this. Goal 13 targets to disaster resilience on ground. Sendai Framework and SDG 13. The Sendai Framework is the global blueprint for disaster risk reduction. It focuses on understanding risk, strengthening governance, investing in resilience, preparedness, and build back better. Now, connect it to SDG 13. Target 13.1 is basically in the same direction, reduce disaster impacts through resilience, and UNDRR points out updation tracking can align with disaster risk reduction reporting to show real reduction in loss and damage. Now, let us integrate Paris Agreement with adaptation. Even though this chapter is focusing on SDG 13, you should know that SDG 13 sits in the bigger global climate action system. The Paris Agreement establishes a global goal on adaptation, so the big picture becomes SDG 13 sets development framing, Paris Agreement sets climate treaty framing, Sendai sets disaster risk framing. Together, they should work like one team, not three separate teams. And yes, in real life, they sometimes behave like separate teams, but that's part of one challenge. So, what are the challenges associated with SDG 13? And this is the third objective of this chapter. So, let me start with this. Climate is long term. This is a mindset problem. Many decision makers treat climate like future problem, but disasters are present problem. Still, long-term planning gets postponed because elections and budgets are short-term. So, adaptation becomes reactive. The second problem is there is a big gap in finance, big and in fact real. Adaptation needs money, but finance flows are not enough. Countries often struggle with assessing funds, complex procedures, project preparations capacity, debt concern when finance is loan heavy. And news reporting has repeatedly highlighted that adaptation finance remains far below estimated needs. This shows a type of political tension. The third problem is integration. Integration is indeed very hard in practice. Students, target 13.2 says, integrate climate into planning. It's easy to write, but it is really difficult to do. Different departments don't coordinate. Climate unit writes a plan, but sector departments continue business as usual. Climate risk data is not used in approvals of roads, housing, irrigation, etc. Sometimes climate plans stay as documents, not budgets. The fourth problem is data and capacity limitations. Many local governments lack risk mapping skill, climate data, interpretation, staff trained in adaptation planning. Early warning system may exist, but last mile reach fails warning are not actionable. Trust problem due to false alarm. Now, another problem is of inequality and different levels of vulnerability. Students, same disaster can happen in different regions, but you can see the response as per the development. For example, rich households have safe housing, insurance, mobility. But compared to that, poor households often live in floodplains area, unstable slopes, heat traps neighborhood, informal housing with low protection. Not only this, workers in informal sector can't work from home during heat waves. So, vulnerability becomes a justice issue when it is compared with developed and developing societies. Another problem is of trade-offs and development pressure. Students, rapid urbanization eats wetlands and floodplains. Infrastructure expansion sometimes increase risk exposure. Agriculture intensification can worsen water stress, so development choices can accidentally create new risk. In Sendai, this is called as creating new risk. Another problem is of global cooperation problem. This is a big problem. Climate action is global, but trust is uneven. We have witnessed other countries how they react and how their response is. Who pays how much? Who reduces how much? The debate on what counts as climate finance. Another issue is at organizational level. Delays in meeting finance pledges create distrust. OECD tracked finance pledge debates show this tension very clearly. You can see these arguments in different newspapers. Another problem is measuring progress is not simple. Sustainable development goals targets are clear, but measurement can be messy. Some indicators depend on good national reporting systems. Disaster impacts data may be incomplete. Integration into planning is difficult to measure in real life. Sometimes it becomes as a tick box reporting. Students, the United Nations Statistics Division provides indicator metadata, but it still depends on national capacity to report well. So, you can very well understand that data validation is very much important, in which the integration of developing and developed nations both are required at same level. Now, the question arises that with so many problems, what can be the way forward?